Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 162. Don't be afraid of the dark. The classic 1973 cult science fiction horror suspense drama starring Kim Darby and Jim Hutton. With me tonight to discuss this classic film is my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. Were you sleeping with the lights on?
No, I had my flashlight ready.
Yeah.
When I thought I was starting to hear some mices going around, I just kind of like looked and I would start shining and then but just
start taking the no-dos.
start taking the no-dos. How are you doing, Ross? How was your week?
I'm wide awake. A very busy week. I'm not even going to go into it.
Okay.
But it was fine. It's all good.
That's good. That's good.
Nobody pulled me down the fireplace.
At least not yet anyway, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to welcome our viewers, and I just want to remind everybody, we are now not only broadcasting on Facebook, but we are broadcasting on YouTube as well as Twitter. So I want to thank everybody for using the different platforms and being out there. And with that said, I see my friend and our friend Bill Scarrato is out there. Bill, welcome to the show. And Bill is joining us actually from YouTube. So great to see you out there, Bill. I also see Colin is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Colin. Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Dennis. Liz is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Liz. Good to see you out there. I also see Craig is also joining us, and he's saying, hello, you guys. I'm afraid already. And Craig is actually joining us from New Jersey, and he's a friend of the theater as well. I also see that, let me see who else is out there. Jeff Rubel is also joining us out west. Jeff, welcome to the show. Christian is with us. Christian was with us last week online, and he's saying hello. And he's saying, thinking Nueva, New York this week.
Nueve, New York, yeah. Nueve York, right.
And I see Matt is joining us. Matt Anthony is in the house. Welcome, Matt. Good to see you out there. I also see Deborah is joining us. Welcome, Deborah. Deborah's joining us from Phillipsburg as well. And Jeff Rubel is commenting, I thought you were using that combination of YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. It's called YouTwitFace. Nice, Jeff. Nice. There's always a comedian in the house. Jeff has got the role tonight. Wow. Lou's joining us from Rhode Island. Welcome, Lou. Good to see you there, too. Colin is saying, good film that was probably more psychologically intense in 1973, but that rasping little voice of those creatures.
That's all, folks. Oh, you're back. Oh, you took a dive down the steps. Yeah.
Is joining us on YouTube. Welcome, Linda. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and being one of our YouTube subscribers. Much appreciated. Jack Daly is also out there saying Kim Darby terrorized by angry sweet potatoes. One of my favorites.
The little yam men.
Colin is saying they got Roy, and Martin is joining us from New York. Welcome, Martin. And he's saying the suits are active.
Don't be afraid of the suits.
Don't be afraid of the suits. They're out there. I also see John Haig. The Haig is in the house also. Hey. John is joining us from Pennsylvania. Welcome, John. Good to see you out there. Christian is saying, let's see, he's talking to Liz. And then also Matt is saying, I'll read it. I saw a shriveled potato head creature in my kitchen trash can last night, and it was stinking the place up. Nice. I always count on Matt.
That was no potato, Matt.
So anyway, good to see everybody's is out there and doing well. So Thanks for joining us again. So yeah, let's talk about this film. Ross, I have to ask, it's the question I always ask.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing this movie back in the day?
Oh, how could I not remember seeing this movie? Anybody that saw this movie remembers seeing this movie, especially people our age. You know, 'cause I was what, 7? We were 7 when it was on the first time. Did you see it when it was on?
I did see it. I don't recall if I saw it when it actually first broadcast, but I definitely saw it in the 70s. And interesting enough, too, this film broadcast for the first time. It was a Wednesday movie of the week movie that was done by Lorimer Productions
Yeah,
back
more
in the
and
day.
more, right?
Yeah, Lorimer. Yeah, you'd always see their
That took me back. Yeah, seeing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it came out around October, I believe it was October 10th. So we are literally coming up on the 49th anniversary of the premiere of this film.
We just couldn't wait the extra year to make it 50.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to do it last year. I remember we kicked it around, but we couldn't find it streaming anywhere.
Right.
And even this year, I found it streaming in a couple of places, but it's still not everywhere. You know, you figure it would be a movie people could watch, you know, because we all remember it so fondly.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what's interesting too is we all seem to have that certain recollections of this movie. I mean, the one thing that really stood out with me, and I'm not going to give away anything here. You know, 49 years. But I will say this is not the exact ending, but what really stood in my mind was Kim Darby, her character Sally, being dragged down the steps and towards the basement. And that's the one thing that really resonated with me. And I remember as a kid, and I guess you could say that, you know, it's almost like when you see films when you're younger, no matter what it is. I mean, and I'm gonna reach out to the Space 1999 fans here, because everybody loves Dragon's Domain, even you, Ross, because you love the music, Albinoni in G minor, if I'm saying it right.
Oh, the Albinoni Adagio, sure.
Adagio, yeah. So I mean, everybody, it's children were, you know, almost like scarred by that episode. It's like, you know, with this specific movie, it was her being taken by these creatures, which we'll get into. And it's like, what's going to happen to Sally? So, yeah.
Are you kidding? Just that raspy, like the whisper that Colin mentions, that's enough to freak you out. You know, when you're 7 years old, like, oh, I can't watch. Traumatized, sleep with the lights on forever. Or when you're in the shower and getting soap in your eyes. It's like, you know, there's yams out there messing around with the straight razor.
Yeah, really. It was just like, oh my God.
Don't hurt her. But I want to. I want to.
These evil little creatures.
Not until tomorrow.
Saving it for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day. Hey, I see Don Bethman is joining us from Delaware. Don, welcome to the show. Good to see you there. Let me see. And Linda is commenting, saying, lots of laughs. I was just thinking that very thought, Roy, about the scene with KD, with Kim Darby. Yeah. I mean, it's just what really stands out.
Yeah. It is surprising how much of it I didn't remember. Oh, what's this say?
Matt's saying, by the way, the stream worked yesterday, but when I went back today, all the sites seemed to slow the speed to a crawl.
No, they're on to us, Roy.
Uh-oh, look out.
Oh,
Shari's joining us.
She's joining you from the basement office.
Hey, guys, joining you from downstairs.
Uh-oh.
Finally home to enjoy. Want to watch this movie with you. Don't know if I've ever seen it. Oh, I'm sure you've seen it, hon.
Don't open up the fireplace.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then Christian is saying maybe Game of Thrones and the new prequel will be influenced by Dragon's Domain. Yeah, that's a possibility. I think this is Randy Lee joining us, but I could be wrong. Evening, never seen, or perhaps just don't remember. Please let me know if this is Randy, the person I just put the comment up, because your name is not coming through. It's just saying Facebook user, so just checking.
Yeah. Oh, you'd remember. If you saw any stills from it, I mean, if you looked it up and saw the stills, you would say, I definitely saw this, or I never saw this.
Speaking of which, Ross.
And I did see it, I did see it more than once. I saw it when it was on the first time, and I did see it rerun on a Saturday afternoon sometime. So it was one of these things where it was still in circulation. Unlike, most TV movies, you really didn't see them again once they were on prime time. This one stuck around for a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely recirculated this one, which was interesting. I mean, it got its mileage probably on syndicated network or syndicated channels like maybe WPX Channel 11.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sure the Hague would be able to attest for that.
Oh, I'm sure he has it on all the VHS, whenever it turned up on Dr. Shock or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Jeff. Jeff. I didn't realize that was you. For some reason, it's not picking you up though. But thanks for joining us, Jeff. Jeff Curley is joining us from Texas. So welcome to the show, Jeff. Good to see you out there. Hope you're doing well. Collins is commenting saying the 2010 remake of this wasn't bad as remakes go. Before we get into the movie, real quick. It's interesting because I was thinking in regards to the remake, that movie came out maybe 7, 8 years ago. And then to find out that was 12 years ago, I was like blown away by that.
Yeah. Now, I have a lot of respect for Guillermo del Toro. He's a good filmmaker. I think he goes a little too far sometimes with the thing. I mean, he's a little, I think he'd be too literal for, I didn't see the remake, but I did see clips from it. And I think you see too much of the, kind of CG creatures, this one, for as creaky as it is, you got the kind of they filmed it very quickly. They shot the thing in like 2 weeks, and and face it, the script isn't the greatest. The actors aren't always the most committed. Kim Darby was pretty committed, but you get William Demarest, and he's just kind of sleepwalking through it, and the setup is not that great. You've seen it a million times. It was kind of perfunctory and not a lot of atmosphere at the beginning, but there's just something about the scenes with the creatures that just resonate and stick with you. It gets under your skin, and I don't know that a newer version would do that with the effects that we have now. Because you can see everything. Yeah,
you're bringing up a really good point. This film is not. I mean, it's definitely like a suspense horror type of film, but there's no gore in it. You know what I mean? It's suspense, and it's the mood, it's the darkness, it's the atmosphere, and it's just an example of where you can make a movie, and it doesn't have to be all glitter and lavish effects and everything. You can do a basic story. Right. And to your point, this film was slapped together. It was made in 2 weeks. There was a writer's strike, or I believe it was a writer's strike that was going on at the time too, and they got everything together to make this happen, including the filming of it. And I think for what they did a good job. I mean, was it a deep film and full of character development? And no, it wasn't. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. I mean, it definitely wasn't that, but it was driving the point of the fear factor of what was going on and how it was intensifying. There's also, this movie is definitely a product of its times, with different innuendos, different commentary that's made, different actions by the actors or the actresses. I mean, we can definitely touch upon that, but it was 1973.
It absolutely was a product of its time, and it worked really well thematically. But I didn't find out until about a half hour before we went on. I was reading some stuff about it, that there was the writer's strike before the script was finished. So I wonder if that accounted for some of the, rougher edges, if they just shot with what they had and kind of, did what they could with it, because the screenplay wasn't the teleplay wasn't the strongest. I didn't think, or maybe the actors just just weren't into the lines, but thematically the whole movie works on a fascinating level. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that, or if you want to talk about, but when we get to it, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. Hey, I see somebody else is joining us, and they said good evening from the Milwaukee Brewers game. So thank you for joining us. Your name is not coming through.
Are we on like Fanavision now? Are we being viewed by 10,000 or 14,000 fans? All these tie-dye shirts.
I think the creatures have actually tapped into the internet line. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, Guillermo has an anthology show coming up, as The Hague pointed out. Cabinet of Curiosities, it's called.
Oh, interesting. Uh, Linda's saying, "Well said, Ross, about the remake." By the
About
way,
the remake. I'm so inarticulate. That's a funny thing. Whenever he goes, "Oh, it's so well said," I can't say anything that's in my head ever. I can kind of approximate it.
good point, Liz. The art of good filmmaking is letting the audience imagine rather than being too graphic.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. They shouldn't give anybody a budget. If you got talent, you can make a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, you know what? Well, I was going to say Ed Wood. That
Well, yeah.
yeah,
There you
Plan
go.
9 from Outer Space. There is a tie-in for that, and I'll come back to that later. But I mean, we're working on that at the theater and everything for the end of October, and and I'm just going to branch off for a second. There's a guy that really, really was trying to make a movie and really was being serious about what he was doing, and we discussed it.
Oh, Ed Wood. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about budget and everything. I mean, you know what? He tried, and that we'll just
He had the passion. Yeah.
yeah.
If not the technique.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see so often that somebody's first film, especially, it's such a passion project, like Robert Rodriguez. I think we were just talking about him at some point, how he financed El Mariachi, basically by maxing out his credit cards and selling himself for scientific experiments. And I think he made the first movie on some ridiculously low amount of money. I mean, really, really low, like $6,000 or something, like nothing. and the thing was, it was a great movie. It was a fun movie. And then he goes and makes the sequels, and they're amusing, but they have huge budgets, and they have name actors. You get Johnny Depp and Antonio Banderas, and I like these guys fine, but they can't match. He never matched that first film, in my opinion, and it happens all the time. I mean, look at the Jaws with the shark. The shark breaks down, and what a brilliant movie that is. It's one of his best movies, Spielberg. And then you get to Jurassic Park, and it's fun to watch. You want to see all the CG dinosaurs, but nothing in that movie matches the tension in Jaws.
Well, here's another one for you. You remember all the hype? I think it was probably around '98, or maybe it was even 1999. The Blair Witch Project. I mean, that.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Really?
I have never seen the Blair Witch Project. Yeah.
I mean, that got all the hype and everything. And
maybe I'll watch it this month.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
for Halloween.
That brought in a lot of money, and I think they tried to strike lightning twice with that same type of movie making, and it didn't happen. But
well, they made sequels for that, and then they had all these knockoffs, all these found footage, kind of movies. But I've never seen any of them, actually. I don't think. But.
Some of the scariest moments.
Yeah, Jim Hutton is the husband in this movie. Plays the husband, and he played Ellery Queen in the TV series in the 70s. With, by the way, there's Randy Lee at the game, of course. Yeah. His co-star in Ellery Queen was
David Wayne.
David Wayne, from Andromeda Strain, who, as we talked about, won a couple of Tony Awards. He played the leprechaun in Finian's Rainbow. Created the role.
That's right, which was with Sean Connery.
No, that's Darby O'Gill.
Oh, that's Darby O'Gill.
But I think it was with well, the movie was with Fred Astaire. I don't remember who played him on Broadway. It wasn't Fred Astaire, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
All hail and well met.
Hey, Pete Fultz is joining us. Welcome. Don saying he picked up the Blu-ray from Warner.
Oh, this from Warner. Okay.
Well, that's interesting too, because the movie we were just talking about, Laura Marr Productions, actually I think went and was bought out by Warner later on. So there's the connection with that.
Figures to be the case. Yeah. Everybody gets swallowed up by the corporations. Yeah. So I don't know. Seeing what happens to Newman is pretty intense in that movie. Jurassic Park. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Jurassic Park was one of those movies where, I enjoyed every minute of it. But as soon as I walked out of the theater, it was just kind of like, it just kind of dissolved.
Do you want to hear something?
Yeah.
I never saw Jurassic
You
Park.
never saw that. All right. Well, you watch that and I'll watch Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, and Craig's commenting, saw Blair Witch Project opening Saturday night in a packed theater. Half the audience applauded and the other half yelled, "What the hell was that?" Never.
Yeah. I kind of, yeah, that seems to have been the reaction. I'll have to weigh in some other time. I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I remember that people were either like totally freaked out or angry or befuddled. Maybe that's better.
Well, I think what happened with that film, and I'm not going to give anything away, is that I think the expectation was so high because so many people were seeing it. And if folks were not disclosing exactly what happened in the film, then when they actually went to see the movie based upon the commentary of the people that they spoke to, then when they actually saw it, it was like, really? So I think it's possible, and that's the reason for it. And I'll be honest with you, I was probably one of those people like, really?
This is too much like Alphaville.
Nothing is like Alphaville.
Nothing is like Alphaville. All right, now in the comments section, anybody who saw this movie back in the 70s, you got to leave your memories of how this traumatized you, how it warped your life, how you can't get along at work or with your loved ones because of this movie. How you're on medication still because of the Yan people.
Anyway, there you go. And yes, folks, we are starting a day early with Halloween month. So we are kicking off Halloween month a day early on September, the eve of the month of October beginning. So isn't that crazy? We are coming into the fourth quarter of the year. It's pretty intense, Ross.
Crazy boy. You're gonna have me sleeping with the lights on again.
Anyway, so going from there. So Starlog tribute, folks, as we always like to give a tribute to Starlog magazine. Unfortunately, this film came out before Starlog started. Starlog came out in August 1976 with their first issue. However, there were interviews about different movies, different Trek actresses, and that's going to lead into my next slide, or the slide after. And Barbara Anderson was actually interviewed in Starlog number 119. And what is pretty interesting, too, is she commented that this film actually kind of scared her. It was one of those movies that kind of left her, feeling scared. So anyway, there's a comment in regards to that. Also, all roads do lead to Star Trek with this movie, and there are a lot of roads that lead to Star Trek with this film. It's actually a road. It's almost like a highway, because the lead character, who is Sally in this film, portrayed by Kim Darby, actually was the actress Kim Darby, who was in the classic Star Trek episode in the title role, which was named Miri, and that was the first season 1966 episode. And there she is actually with Barbara Anderson. And then, of course, Barbara Anderson, she also starred in a classic Star Trek episode from the first season, which was called The Conscience of the King, playing Lenore Caridian. She was playing a 19-year-old, the daughter of Caridian, who was this Shakespearean actor and suspected of being Kodos the Executioner. And the interesting thing is, Barbara Anderson, I believe, was 21 years old when she did that role. And Kim Darby, I think, if I remember correctly, was 18 when she was in that Star Trek episode. Also, all roads lead again to Star Trek with Felix Silla, who actually was in the role of a Telosian, which was the first episode, or actually the first pilot that was filmed, The Cage, for Star Trek back in 1964.
Right.
So there he is.
Also Cousin It.
Cousin It, yes.
From the Addams family. Yeah.
He also, I'm going to jump. He
How
was
can we
also
forget?
Mickey on All Roads Leading to Buck Rogers. But he actually played one of the creatures in this episode, in this movie.
Mel Blanc doing the voice.
Yeah, I mean, that was classic.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, what happened too was when they went to second season, Mel Blanc had actually left, and they had a different voice actor doing the voice of Tweaky, and it was awful. I mean, I felt bad for whoever that
Oh,
was.
I remember that.
That was terrible. Oh.
Yeah.
And then they brought Mel Blanc back like maybe like 3 episodes later.
Yeah.
It's like, thank God, you know.
Yeah, he had
But also,
Tweaky had a bronchial problem.
Yeah. And then also the actress Patty Maloney, who was also one of the creatures in this film. She also, this was actually her first role in a movie. And then what happened was she also played Tina in the Buck Rogers episode Cruise Ship to the Stars. And that was the episode that had Dorothy Stratton in it. And sadly, you remember that, you know,
Sure.
What happened with her and everything. But yeah, so anyway.
She also played Honk.
Yes.
Was it Far Out Space Nuts? Is that
Yep.
Yeah.
Patty Maloney, yeah. It was about 2 years after this movie was made. And then lastly,
did you get do you have a slide for the third creature, Tamara Detrue?
I don't. I do not.
Or Tro. Tamara Detrue. She was one of the actors who played E.T.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's on record, I think, as the shortest actress. She was only 31 inches tall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know that, Ross. Good find on that. Thanks for sharing that.
So all 3 of the Yam creatures had, you know, some iconic roles in science fiction films.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And television. Yeah.
And then the other Star Trek connection we have is with the director of this movie, who was John Newland, who actually directed Errand of Mercy, which was another first season episode. And this was the episode in Star Trek that Star Trek fans will remember was with the introduction of the Klingons. So this was a prominent episode, and John Newland had directed it. And we'll talk a little bit about him a little bit later into the show. But yeah, a lot of connections there. I see some other comments coming through, and I see some other folks are joining us. I see Allie is out there. My work friend, Allie, welcome. Thanks for joining us, Allie. She's saying fourth quarter. Yeah, I know that. It sounded like it was like an office term. I couldn't help it, but yeah, I said it. But good to see you out there, Allie. Hope you're doing well. And also I see Chris LaRoche is joining us. The Shadow is here, October Eve. Chris is joining us from Florida. Chris, I hope you're doing okay, and I hope you and your family are okay, and I hope your wife is doing well too, because she came down with COVID. So, Chris, I hope she's doing better. So, our best to you, and with everything that happened down there with the hurricane as well too. It's just been a crazy week with everything going on. And Martin saying all roads lead to Rooster Coburn.
Rooster Cogburn. Yeah, because she was Maddie Ross in True Grit. Kim Darby. That's what I always remember her for anyway.
Yeah.
And it must have been because she was just we did The People with William Shatner. Yeah. I remember the TV movie with Kim Darby and William Shatner. And we were talking about True Grit, and I recommended the book, the Charles Portis book, because it's just so well done. She did another movie with, Glenn Campbell was also in True Grit, and she was in a movie with Glenn Campbell afterward called Norwood that was also written by Charles Portis. I've never seen it. Joe Namath is in it also.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious to read the book for that and to see the movie. But yeah, she was in several films that are still remembered.
No, and I think that was like her breakthrough role. She did that film in 1969 with John Wayne, and she was playing, I think, a 14 or 15-year-old, and she was right. I think 18 or 21. I think she was. Yeah,
she was much older than the character in the book. Yeah. And the Coen brothers remade it. And it's not a bad remake. It's a different take on the book, but I thought that they would really get it right. And they do for the most part. But, I think when you read a book and they make a movie, it's very seldom that it matches what's in your head kind of. And I think that even the Coen brothers couldn't capture the ending of the book, which they totally changed for the Kim Darby version. But I highly recommend if you're in a used bookstore at some point and you come across an old paperback of Charles Portis's True Grit, read it. It's a good book.
Now, when was that book written? Do you have any idea?
Not long before the movie, actually.
Okay.
It was in the 60s. Yeah. So But
Now, in regards to the remake, when did that come out?
the
Was that
remake, my goodness, I don't know, maybe I'm going to guess 15 years ago, but I
okay?
don't
So
know.
it's relatively new then.
Oh, actually, it would be less than that because I did it on my film show when I
Oh,
compared the scores for the two films. Because Elmer Bernstein did the original, and then the remake was Carter Burwell, and I played both scores. So it would have been within the last uh, 12 years. So
which did you prefer, or
which one? The score?
uh, scores? Yeah, just out of
Elmer
curiosity.
Bernstein. Of course. What kind of question is that?
It was a trick question. Just want to see if you're on point.
I'm pretty evenly divided on the movies, though. I thought they were both pretty good. Yeah.
Some of the comments coming through, The Hague just said One Step Beyond. He's referring to, of
Right.
course, John Newland. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
He was the
ironically enough, that was
director. Yeah.
the first episode of this show when it originated back in 2020. I did that with Captain Phil. It was episode
Oh,
one was
okay.
One Step Beyond. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So Kim Darby, I think we talked about this the last time too, that um, she was born Deborah Zerby, and I think her stage name as a dancer, she was Derby Zerby. She thought that would be like a sharp name for showbiz, but then when she wanted to branch out into roles as an actor, she changed it to Kim Darby.
She wanted to be taken more seriously, and the
Yeah.
interesting thing was she went with Kim because that was the name of a girl that was in school that was, I guess, very popular and that everybody
Mm.
liked. So she went with that, and then she did a kind of like an alteration of her last name
Yeah.
to make it fit. Which
Well, yeah. In the UK, Derby is pronounced Darby. So
okay,
yeah.
it's funny when we did the people. I wanted to show this photo, and this is something. Now, Vince, I don't think is out there tonight, but this is something that he got for me. I went to the Mid Atlantic Nostalgia Convention in Maryland just a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago, and Vince was there, and Kim Darby was at this convention, and what happened was he picked up the autograph for me and had her sign it, which was kind of cool. So I do have that. And this is from the episode Miri, and then I got this autograph by William Shatner. So thanks for that, Vince. But yeah, at some point I'd love to have her on the show just to talk about her career and everything, because I think it would be a lot of fun, because she did a lot of stuff. As you were saying, she reunited with William Shatner 6 years after Trek, and that the movie The People was made a year before this film, and True Grit had been about 4 years before that. So she was doing different things. The first time I wound up seeing her after all this was in the 1985 film, and it was Better Off Dead, if the folks out there remember that. And I was like, oh my God, that's Kim Darby.
Yeah,
And playing the mom. Yeah.
Mom.
But
yeah. It's funny. It seems like we just had this conversation yesterday, because I was saying I wanted to see the one and only, the Henry Winkler movie where he plays the professional wrestler, and he goes to meet her parents, and it's William Daniels and Polly Holiday.
Polly Holiday from Alice.
Yeah.
And
Right. So it's a Carl Reiner movie I've never seen, and I've got to check that out because it's a really good cast. Yeah.
When was that made?
78. Yeah, I remember it being reviewed. Back when people would watch like Gene and Roger and stuff like that. Before the internet, we had Gene and Roger, or Gene Shalit, or but you know what I mean. You would have to tune in to get the television critics' opinions, or magazine critics.
Right.
Look at New York Magazine or whatever.
Well, it's funny you're saying that, because you remember, what was it? I think it was the Daily News on Sundays. They used to have that columnist. Was it James Brady?
James Brady was a columnist, yeah, from what I recall.
For that, and he would always do. He would have his like movie or television show that he would be.
Oh, right.
Every Sunday.
Right.
I mean, he's since passed away. I'm dating myself, but anyway, yeah, he's probably
nobody else is going to date you, so.
Sherry will. Hey, Sue, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry your work day has been overwhelming. And glad to hear that you're doing good too, Chris. Good. Let me see here. Martin is saying 2009. The Hague is saying 2010.
Oh, that must be True Grit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, there you go. It must have been 2010 because I didn't start the film show until 2010.
Okay, so that's timing out. And then
Bought the Kindle of True Grit on the strength of my opinion. Great.
cool.
Enjoy. Who is that?
That's Linda from Canada.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah. I think you'll like it. It's worth reading. Yeah. If you don't like it, oh well. But the main character is great. It's all told in the first person, so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's told from Maddie Ross's point of view.
Deborah's commenting. John Wayne called her a spoiled brat. He greatly disliked Kim Darby's performance in True Grit.
Baby sister. Yeah. Yeah, I heard she was a brat on the film. Yeah.
I remember reading that, and I think she was quoted almost as doing that intentionally too. I don't know if she was.
I guess it suits the character, but she is way too old for the character. But
Yeah.
that's how they wanted to do it. I guess because they wanted to have like suggestions of a romance with the Glenn Campbell character. Yeah. Which she would have been too young for in the book. Although there are, yeah, I'm not going to ruin it. If you're going to read the book, read the book.
Okay. Jeff Rubel. Dating yourself, even you can do better than you.
That's better with the cat too.
Yes, he is one of our loyal viewers, folks. Boy.
And Jim Hutton, we already said, was Ellery Queen. Originally, George Hamilton was considered for the role of Kim Darby's husband. I guess when they couldn't get the one beach movie actor, they went and got the other beach movie actor. Because he was in all the Paula Prentice movies in the 60s.
And he was in that movie with George Hamilton, Where the Boys Are.
Yeah, Where the Boys Are. It's like, what, we can't get Hamilton? What about, what's his face? What about Hutton? What's he doing?
And he actually, it sounds like he was a really intelligent guy, and it's just that he was always getting into mischief, always getting into trouble. And then what happened was he got involved in theater, and he had a liking for that. And then he eventually went to college, and I think in New York, but then he wound up getting suspended and thrown out of there because he actually had troubles back in high school. And then he wound up going into the army. But when he was in the army, into the service, and he did like 40 of the pictures, service pictures, which I thought was good. He starred in those, so he definitely had the acting bug. And when he got out, it's like one role led to another, and he went from studio to studio to studio. And he was a big guy too. I mean, 6'5", and Paula Prentice, I think they said she was about 5'10". So as far as representation for one of the big movie theaters, one of the big studios, they probably were the the tallest couple per se, and that's why they were being matched together in a lot of the films that they did.
He really looked like his. You could really tell he was Timothy Hutton's dad.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to throw up a photo so everybody can just see. So let me share that real quick. There we go. And there you go. Watching TV.
There you go. Yeah. The most seasoned actor in the whole thing was William Demarest. Of course, he'd been around forever at that point.
Yeah.
William Demarest there he is in the middle. Uncle Charlie from
Uncle Charlie,
My Three Sons. But he was in movies for 50 years. And before that, he was in vaudeville for 20 years, and he looked every inch of it. The thing is that I don't think he ever aged. He always looked the same, William Demarest. But the whole time, when he's delivering his lines in here, I couldn't help but thinking that he was thinking, I used to work for Preston Sturges. Don't go down in that basement. Shouldn't meddle with things that shouldn't be meddled with.
Should we go to the plot, Ross?
Well, I mean, we don't have to go blow by blow, but I don't want to, I don't want to take that away from you if you want to do that. But I mean, you could just basically say what the theme of the movie is. I mean, the character. All right, do what you want. Just don't waste the whole show on your plot.
We'll leave it up to the viewers. Do you want the plot?
They're all gonna egg you on, and I'm gonna be. It's just not gonna be good.
Essentially, there are a couple that, and I guess, well, the way it Pete Foltz, his response is, "Oh my." The way this movie starts out, millions of years ago.
Mm.
Here we go. Here we go, Matt. 3 hours later, and it's only 7:30.
Exactly. Can we just say that she's a housewife married to this ambitious person who's in business, and he wants to get ahead, and she's.
We could say that, but why not say more?
She's the perfect hostess. Yeah. Good.
Let me interject one thing before we go down that road. Essentially, what happens is we see the house at the very beginning, and then we hear these voices that are talking, and they're whispers, and essentially they're trapped in the house. We don't know where they're trapped, but we know that they're trapped, and they want to get out, and they're waiting to be set free, and that they say that somebody is coming, and somebody will let them out, and they will be able to get out of the house. So that's the premise right there. And then to what you just said, there's this couple, and it's Kim Darby and it's Jim Hutton, and essentially this was Kim Darby's character, or her character is Sally, and it was Sally's grandmother and grandfather that had this house, and essentially it's like an inheritance, and they're getting it, and he is a business guy, and he's trying to go to the next level and trying to do anything that he can. He's trying to put in the extra hours. He's trying to do what he needs to do. And this is where the 1973 point of it comes in, because what's happening is it's almost like, she's married to him, and she's like the hostess with the mostess, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's like,
she's a good hostess for him for when he has his business functions at home there. But then, he ignores her, he dismisses her, he berates her when she says stuff to him. And there's some serious tension here about at a time when feminism was really, taking off, modern, feminism, there's this anxiety underlying the whole thing, and all the weird themes that start, being generated by this dynamic right from the very beginning of the film. So that's why I think it's an underdeveloped. The themes are good, but then none of the character motivations make any sense.
Yeah.
They all do stupid things through the whole. But I mean, that's horror. A lot of horror movies have characters behaving stupidly,
and their characters kind of swing back and forth. It's just like she wants to live there because it is. I mean, if you look at the house, I mean, obviously it's a set and everything, but it's lavish. It's beautiful. There's a lot of history to it. It's not a cookie cutter place by no means. There's a lot of history there. It has a lot of character, a lot of history, and of course, she wants to be there. She wants to fix it up. He says, he's more interested in being almost like in a like a skyscraper or in a penthouse,
a high rise,
in New York. He kind of wants to go in that direction. So there's a division right there with all of that, but he kind of agrees to it. And then as things are being fixed up, of course, it leads to the basement, and she goes down there, and then what they discover is this fireplace that's all essentially it's boarded up. There's bricks in it. You can't even use it. And on the side of it is a panel that's been screwed shut. And I was going to say welded, but it's not welded. It's reinforced with screws, and essentially nothing can get in, but nothing can get out. And she's upset because she really likes the room. She wants to decorate it. She wants it to be like a place where she can be,
she wants it as an office.
Yeah.
Again, she's punished for wanting her own
space
as she is in the whole movie. I mean, the whole movie's about him, and
Right.
she's the housewife.
Exactly.
Like these little yam guys are, I don't know what they are. They're the patriarchy. Because there's go ahead, you can do the plot, but I mean it's going to come up through again and again through.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, you're hitting.
Their dynamic is very Rosemary's Baby. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever seen, with John Cassavetes and
Yep.
Mia Farrow, where it's all about him, and she's like, oh, I don't know, she's the meek, wife. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
But no, you're right though, and it's almost like they're an advocate for her, but they're an advocate of what's going to take her down a dark path, so to speak. I mean, we don't know what that is. We're thinking that we don't know what's going to happen to her.
But they should have gotten Ruth Gordon to be one of the yam people.
But we know that they want to get a hold of her. They what their intentions are. We don't know, and she's fearful. Well, it doesn't get to that point yet, but essentially, she wants to get the fireplace open. She's determined, and what happens is while this is going on, William Demarest hears her discussion with a guy that is like, I guess he's like an interior designer, an artist, and he wants to fix the place up. He's trying to help her, and he overhears what's going on, and that right away that he knows something, just the way they're doing the camera angles and they keep pivoting back and forth, and it's like what's gonna what's transpiring, what does he know? And he's trying to convince her just leave things alone. As you said earlier at the beginning of the show, some things are just better left alone and not said. But of course, it's like telling somebody, you know what, don't open that door. No matter what you do, don't open that door. Why? Don't ask, just don't open the door. But don't open it. I'm just telling you.
I mean, it worked. It worked so well in the Garden of Eden. Why not?
And that's exactly.
It's like, hey, Pandora, don't open that box. Whatever you do,
you can do anything you want, but just don't open that box. Don't open the door.
Exactly.
You have free reign. Everything will be fine. And exactly.
See, again, it's the woman screwing everything up, right?
Well,
thematically.
Here's the comment. What happens is William Demarest's character, he leaves the toolbox there, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And then he leaves and says he's going to come back tomorrow. And then she essentially says, okay, if you're not going to help me, I'll do it myself.
Right.
And which is like, okay, she doesn't need him to do that, and she can take charge of the situation. And then she does it. And then, of course, Jim Hutton comes in, and then makes the comment, you know what? You're more stubborn than I am. They're making the comparisons with that.
Yeah.
So it's all of that stuff leading up to that. And when she opens that side panel and then looks in, and they both look in, they see nothing. They look up at the chimney. There's nothing in there. But then when they leave, you hear the voices going, "We're free. We're free."
Right.
We're free. And then that spurs everything that leads into the whole movie. Then that's
right.
That's Pandora's box being opened.
So she's punished anytime she tries to take anything for herself.
Right.
And then everybody's shocked that it happened. It's like, oh, what? Where is she? Where is she? What happened? But anyway, go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So with that, then little things start to happen throughout the house. She thinks she hears mice, and her husband says, well, no, it can't be mice because we had the place fumigated, and there's no way that could be. And things start to fall, ashtrays start to fall, and she hears things and gets very upset.
And what about what her friend says? She goes out with her friend on the town, and she too is married to a businessman, an ambitious businessman. In fact, her name's Khan, so she refers to her husband as Genghis Khan. And or she says it Genghis.
Genghis, yeah.
But her quote is, "I don't care what women's lib tells me. The very mention of a mouse drives me crazy."
Yeah.
It's like, again, I don't care what women's lib tells me. The minute I hear a mouse, it's like, oh, I'm the woman. But these men, that's it. Yeah, so I can't tell whether to take it seriously as, that they're going after like the women's movement, or if it's being ironic. Is there an irony here and showing but it's there. It's definitely there. This is not an accident because there's all kinds of
It's
like
throughout the film,
battle of the sexes stuff through the movie. Yeah,
throughout the whole movie.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and even at one point, he gets really frustrated because what happens is it just gets, not to go through every single detail, but it gets worse and worse and worse, and she's fearful, and she even thinks she sees them at one point, in which she does, and she's trying to warn her husband that she's not happy with the house, and he starts berating her and saying,
Mm.
you know, what do you want from me? And he goes, I'm ready to take you, take you by the neck or whatever. And he said, and bring you through every room in the house just to show you there's nothing here. I'm like, whoa, you don't talk to somebody like that, let alone your wife. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. I know he has no patience at all. He'd immediately go 0 to 60, and and in the meantime, she's feeling isolated because he's going to go off for some business meeting for a couple of days and leave her alone. So her sense of isolation is totally manifested in of course she's in an old dark house, left alone in the old dark house.
Of course. I mean, you've got the perfect setup for that.
Yeah.
And that's the other piece of it too. She doesn't know that he's going to be going to San Francisco. And he kind of says about hoping everything's going to go well at the business meeting, the dinner, that everything. And he's like, you realize how important this is to me. And then he's like, you want this for me, don't you? You really do, right? And then she's very withdrawn because she's upset. She's upset about the situation. She's not happy. And then he hits her with the whole thing about going to San Francisco. And then she's like, when did this happen? And she's pretty much put out by it. And then he's kind of laying the guilt trip and saying, you know what, you will be the one to do this the right way. And because this has to be done, my boss is like high on the food chain. And if you don't follow through with this, you're essentially going to make me look bad. And it's very berating, just the way he treats her.
Berates her. Yeah. It's frustrating because you keep wanting her to fight back, or
Yeah,
in
really
a sense. And she really doesn't. I mean, she's kind of a victim the whole movie. I mean, the one thing she does is she wants to take that basement as her office. And what she do, she unleashes the little demons, the little yam men.
Yeah. It just
it looks like we're having yams.
Hey, I want to welcome Martha. Hey, Martha, thanks for joining us. Good to see you out there. Hope you're having a good night. And hi to John, too. Hope you guys are doing good. The Hague is saying, thank God for people having to leave people alone, or most horror plots would be non-existent.
That's true. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. it's like that in the mysteries, too, in the whodunit films. It's like they're in an old dark house, and it's like, well, let's split up and go see what's going on in the different parts of the house instead of everybody sitting in one room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh. But anyway, so that's what's progressing through all this. She wants to try to enlist the help of her friend because her friend, and I didn't remember this part of the film, Ross, so I wasn't sure what direction it was going to go in regards to her actually helping her, or if she was going to think, she was crazy. And what essentially happens is they have the big dinner where he's having his boss, having folks from the office over and doing everything. And this is where these little gnomes essentially come out and they start terrorizing her. And at one point she drops her I was going to say her napkin on the ground, and she goes to pick it up. And the reason why it dropped is because one of those little gnomes pushed it off. And then she puts it back on, and then it's kind of scurrying underneath her, under the napkin. And she's like trying to push it. And then essentially what happens is at one point she just like yells out and is like, she screams and she's like, oh my God, get them away from me. I want out of this house. And then she just freaks out. Yeah. And it's like everything just comes crashing in. And then the next scene just goes right into it where it's like the after party. It's after the dinner party, everything is done. And essentially what's happening is he's belittling her that, like, his whole night got ruined, and it's like
nobody else sees them, of course.
Yeah.
So were they real or were they in their head?
Right. Exactly. That is the question.
I don't know, but there is a manifestation at some point in the movie because she gets the rope burns.
Right.
Well,
and that's
she
the other
winds up down the steps somehow. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. Shari's commenting saying, haunted house movies, gotta love them. I always say they should just leave the house, but then there would be no movie.
Right. My favorite haunted house movie is The Haunting, the Robert Wise movie, And that's another film like this one where the house just kind of becomes a projection of her. The house wants her,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny you're talking about that movie because the other movie that immediately comes to mind is Burnt Offerings. And
The Burnt Offerings. We keep talking about doing that one every year too.
I know. And I was thinking we should maybe try to work that one in. I love that movie. That's another movie that came out in 1976. Oliver Reed, Aaron Black,
Betty Davis.
Yeah.
And Burgess Meredith. Wasn't he in it?
Meredith. Yep. He was in it also too. You can't go wrong with that cast.
Yeah.
Great film. Maybe we'll work that in.
I wouldn't go too far. It's this
all
great.
right.
It's maybe this great.
What are you saying, Ross? What are you saying?
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining. Sherry even commented, The Shining.
The Shining, right.
And Christian with shower scenes.
The shower scene. Oh, there was a shower scene in this one, Sherry.
Yes, there was actually. That's right.
Yeah.
Kim Darby.
She can watch it for the shower scene. Yeah.
No, the gnomes were not in the shower.
Don't hurt her. But I want to hurt her. I want to. Not yet.
And just so folks, so you can be reminded of this image of these little gnomes saying that there they are. All three of them.
They just climbed out of your yam casserole. At Thanksgiving. And of course they have the fursuits. Oh, yeah. I should mention also that Patty Maloney played Lumpy in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I did see. Yes. Star Wars Holiday Special, Ross. Way to go. That's one of our best.
I am, Matt. I confess.
Oh, we did that 2 years ago, Ross.
I need a yam exorcism.
I
am what I am. Yeah.
Popeye the Yam. Christina Raines was also in Burnt Offerings as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Sherry's saying we have to watch that tonight.
For your collection. Yeah.
After I get done with internet radio.
Charlton Heston shows up for that one scene.
You're still scarred from the Omega Man, Ross.
From the Omega Man. Except that was the other one. That was Soylent Green. Yeah.
Oh, Soylent Green. Right.
Oh man. I'm not even reading that comment.
Yeah, I don't even read it. It's okay. It's all good.
Is he talking about this show?
Yeah, whatever. That's Matt. Anyway.
Thanks.
So
Matt.
She has a big meltdown, and what happens is she pretty much gets fried. And I guess that's when they called the doctor in, and the doctor comes and examines her and actually questions her friend, asking her if she's somebody that would actually, make up things and be full of imagination and that type of personality. And Barbara Anderson, being the friend, says, no, that's not her at all. So anyway, Jim Hutton goes on his business trip. He's away. And while he's away, she's visited by, again, the interior decorators coming. And essentially, she's making the decision that she doesn't want to stay in the house. And she actually confers this with her husband that, we'll leave. We'll get out of here. And when the decorator is there, what happens is they're upstairs going through different things, and he's on his way down the steps. These little gnomes actually get a rope, as we saw in that picture, and they trip him, and he actually tumbles down the steps, and he's killed. And you know what was amazing for me for that? It's like the police come, and as quickly as the police are there, they're gone. It's like there's no thorough investigation.
Right.
There's no... they don't look at the maybe foul play, for all they know, she could have pushed him down the steps.
Yeah.
And everything. And with that too, she sees the rope that they use and she tries to get the rope, and that's where she gets the rope burn on her hands. I
Right.
mean, everything
Right.
just happens so quickly with that.
Yeah.
And she's traumatized by that. That's actually when the doctor comes and everything. The friend comes, and
Yeah.
the husband's going to try to come back home. Go ahead, Ross.
No, I hate to keep comparing it to other movies, especially movies like Psycho, which is so superior. But this movie too has a scary shower scene, and it has a scene where the guy falls down the steps.
Right.
As in Psycho. But I guess how many ways you're going to try to kill people.
Yeah.
There are only so many ways to kill people in the home, I guess.
The steps being the most clever, right? Probably the most people used.
How much damage can a yam do?
Well, it wasn't the yam, it was the rope.
That's their defense. We just held the rope. The yam defense. I gotta remember that. There are no there are no good and bad ropes, only good and bad people. Good and bad yams.
And if you're having any doubt, you know what? You just always have to go back to this.
There they are. With their little Laredo lariat.
We're going to we're bottoming
They're going
out.
after rope Guanji. Yeah.
Yeah. The Hague, and there's a doll at the bottom of the stairs. Yeah, talking Tina from Twilight Zone, Telly Savalas episode. Yeah, right there with the stairway. He's going down the steps. He thinks he hears something, and he's got his flashlight, and he's looking, and then what happens is talking Tina trips him, and then he tumbles down the steps. You remember that, right?
Of course, I remember that. I don't trust dolls. I don't think they knew as much back then.
Anyway,
about dolls.
Yeah. Jeff Rubel. Well, I mean, everybody can. So anyway, with all this, what happens is the doctor prescribes sleeping pills, of course, to Sally, and what happens is Barbara Anderson doesn't want to give them to her, and she brings her coffee, and she's like, "You have to drink this. You have to drink the coffee." And then she says, "And he wants you to have the sleeping pills." So she's like, "I don't want to take those," and so she just drinks the coffee. And then she puts the coffee down and she puts the sleeping pills down. And this is what really threw me. I don't see where she drank the coffee with the sleeping pills. I mean, it didn't. I mean,
I don't know. The whole coffee sleeping pill thing. I just don't get.
Did you catch that, or was it me? I mean, I was trying to see where did Barbara Anderson give her the sleeping pills? No. I mean, I originally thought maybe she was slipping them to her
right.
to make
but we know that we're supposed to draw the inference that the yams put the pills in the coffee, which is like putting heroin in your cocaine. You don't want to do that. It's like all those people that have like heart attacks because they're drinking. What are there's like an energy drink that has the coffee and the something to pick you up and to bring you down at the same time, so your heart explodes. Don't do that. Don't be taking sleeping pills and drinking coffee.
No, but anyway, so what happens is she has the coffee, and then like 2 minutes later, she starts getting really, really drowsy. I'm like, uh-oh. So then she passes out, and she's barely awake. And then then what happens is, Jim Hutton comes back, her husband comes back, and then she's filling him in. Barbara Anderson is filling him in about what happened, and she actually believes the story that there's something supernatural in the house, whereas Hutton doesn't. And he's like going on saying, this is a lot of superstitious mumbo jumbo, and just pretty much just trying to push it out.
Right.
And she's trying to, convince him that there's something going on, and, your wife's in danger. And then, of course, what happens is, do you think that they take her out of the house? Do you think that they get the heck out of there? No. That would be too easy.
Yeah.
So
there are all kinds of contrivances just to leave her alone.
Right. Exactly. And then they go out into the other room, and then she's, Kim Darby's like, "Don't leave me, don't turn the light out." And then he decides he's going to go talk to William Demarest, thinking that he does something, which he does, because at one point in an earlier scene, he actually goes into the basement and the gnomes lock him in there, and they're like, you know what we do to people that tell. And then they start stabbing at him and everything. And he's like, I didn't tell. And he's like, open the door. And he actually gets out. And then he just wants to, run and get the heck out of the house.
How many times have I told you, Yams? Have you done like My Three Sons?
So anyway, with all of that
Yams. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's only the three of them, too. That's the irony of the whole thing.
Manny, Mo, and Jack. Yeah.
They Hutton, Jim Hutton decides he's going to go to talk to him, find out what's going on, what the story is. Meanwhile, Barbara Anderson is alone with Kim Darby, and then what happens? The power goes out because they trip the circuit breaker, and they actually destroy the circuit breaker with their makeshift weapon, which was like a little axe, and shorts everything out. And then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see." And where's the fuse box? And then Kim Darby's saying, "Don't go, don't leave me." And she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go in the basement to find it." And she's like, "No, don't go down there." And then what happens is, of course, she leaves, and she's trying to change the box, and then she gets attacked by them. And then she goes running out of the house. And then what happens is they lock the doors behind her. And then every time she tries to get into a different door in the house, she can't get in. Meanwhile, Hutton is talking to William Demarest about the whole situation, and he's starting to fill him in about what actually happened to her grandparents. And the grandfather was very much like Kim Darby's character, where he liked the room and he wanted to open up the fireplace. And what he did do is he did open it up. And then one day they found out that the room was like in turmoil, and then the next thing was he was gone, and it was almost as though he was scooped up into the fireplace.
Right. There you go.
So with all of that, they're rushing to get back to the house. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, Kim Darby is trying to get up. She tries to find a flashlight. She shines it on them, and that's the photo that we saw, actually, that I was sharing earlier, when she is trying to see them in the living room, and they are very susceptible to light. Light bothers them. In fact, They start screaming and screeching anytime light comes on.
And again, it reminded me of Rear Window with Raymond Burr. Every time he tries to attack James Stewart, he sets off the flash bulb to kind of blind him.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So there's those similarities.
And I think it's Invasion of the Saucer Men from the 50s. Where the guys have the needles that come out of their hands, and they have like the kind of the veins in their heads instead of the little saucer men. They if you turn the car lights on them, they would scream and run.
Which they do in this movie.
Yeah.
So this is bringing everything to the climax, as they're essentially she's trying to shine the light, and then what they do is they attack her, and she goes flying. I think they attack her with the rope again. And then she drops the flashlight, and of course they scurry over to the flashlight, and they take it away from her. And then what they do is they tie her up, and then they start to drag her. And this is the scene that everybody remembers when they were kids. And they start dragging her down to the steps to the cellar. And she's trying to hold on, and she's trying to grasp at something. Meanwhile, Barbara Anderson, her friend, is trying to get into the house, can't get in. At one point, I think she almost opens the door, and then one of the gnomes stabs her. And then Jim Hutton is on his way back, and as she's being dragged, she finds a camera, Kim Darby, and she starts flashing it with the flash, and it's like they screech and they get blinded momentarily, right. And then they keep dragging her down, and they're trying to bang in the door, and they're calling for her, and then what happens is they bring her into the basement, and just as they he crashes through the door, breaks the glass, and goes in. You hear this horrid scream coming from the basement, and then they run downstairs into the basement, and then he goes right for the chimney, and he looks up, and then he's like, "Sally!" She's gone.
Yeah. And in as so many of these horror movies, another thing that's common is the lack of communication. Like the William Demarest's refusal to say what's Roy's still in the plot. Welcome to my world, Matt. Yeah. Bright light, bright light. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In so many horror, if William Demarest had just said right up front, well, the reason it's not open is because there are these yam people living in the fireplace that are going to steal your soul.
There'd be no movie.
There'd be no movie. But they wouldn't believe him then. But
Right.
but there's always two things. There's a lack of communication, and there's the transgression or the disobedience. When she opens the fireplace.
Right.
And basically that's their relationship in a nutshell. You have Kim Darby and Hutton, Jim Hutton. That's what it is. I mean, there's no communication in the couple. She disobeys. He finally, tries to do a little something for herself. And I don't know if this was intended or not. And I'm reluctant to even bring it up. But when they tie her up and they drag her along the floor, I swear she's getting more pleasure from being dragged to hell by these guys than she ever is in the company of her husband. Do you think I'm reading into this? Do you think this is just her acting? Or do you think that there's like a little bit of an arousal thing going here?
I didn't get that.
You tell me when you rewatch this with Sherry tonight, you tell me if I just have like some, yam perversion. Which I probably do.
Oh, you see a new low. I think I see the suits are making the pass by the house right now.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a fetish for being tied up by yams. I forgot to mention that to you guys.
Here come the suits. It's been a while, Ross, but they're out there.
And there's also, I keep reading, in some of these kinky books. There you go. I think there's a musical in that, maybe. Russ says the guy on the wrestling in the luchador mask. Yeah, there you go. I knew I'd get a reaction.
The suits are here. They're banging on the door.
I figured now that we're on Twitter, you might as well get some play. It'll be looping everywhere tomorrow. I'll be a meme. So but the other thing is 50 Shades of Yam.
And you're gonna say that. Oh man.
So
oh my God.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ross. Go ahead.
I can't wait until you get Kim Darby on the show now because we're going to talk about this. But anyway,
not guaranteed yet.
It's not going to happen. So the other thing was a lot of the reviews of the movie or people writing about the movie later. They're talking about don't be afraid of suits. Exactly. Talking about the Freudian implications. And I thought, what the hell's Freudian about the yams? But then as I looked into, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark and Freud, I mean, it's literally, a theory of his that, being afraid of the dark is a separation anxiety disorder, which would totally play in to the Kim Darby character's reaction to being left alone by her husband, when he goes to, the meeting out of town. It's a weird thing. She's so meek and so. Oh, hello.
Hey, Mary Beth. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about perverted yams.
Mary Beth will show up at this point and think that I'm like trashing women when it's just like a theme in the movie. I mean, she's so meek, and not Mary Beth, but the Kim Darby character is so meek all the time. It's frustrating.
It's okay. Sherry seems to be.
3 yams are better than one husband. Well, Sherry, I wasn't going to say that, but you and I have been around the block a few times, so we understand this. But
ahead,
in front of Roy, I don't know. I didn't want to shatter his illusions.
You were saying you were talking about Freud and darkness.
I was talking about monogamous yams, Roy. Welcome to the club.
Oh, it's been a long week. Go ahead, Ross.
No, this is clearly a movie where there's where there's plenty of time to pad. It's not like Alphaville where we just like dip our toe into it and suddenly we're talking for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Plenty of time for comedy here. Meds all around, exactly.
Anyway,
so Barbara Anderson, who plays the friend, she was in Ironside. She won an Emmy.
She did
for her role as who was it? Sue Whitfield. She was the cop.
Yep. And that was in the 1960s, and also she was also on Mission Impossible.
And I saw she was in the $6 Million Man pilot. Was she Steve Austin's?
She was okay. The love interest. She was the nurse that was by his side after his accident. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And did you see Haywood Floyd from 2001?
No, that I did not.
Yeah, I he's listed in the credits, and I couldn't remember. He must have been at the party. Did anybody give a toast or something at the party? Because he had to have a line. He was hardly, there wasn't anybody in the movie except for the 3 or 4 people.
There was the one guy that says to her, but I don't think that was him, who says about, it was a lovely party or something.
Yeah,
it's like a one-liner. But
I can't imagine that would have been it. But Haywood Floyd, the actor. William Sylvester, he's in a lot of stuff, but he never had a part like he did in 2001. Right. Afterwards, I don't understand why. I mean, he does fine in 2001. He's that nice scene with where he's communicating with his daughter. And I mean, he's got a good chunk in that movie. But apparently he has a walk on. It got him a walk on in Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. So sad.
But no, I mean this cast though. I mean, you had a really great caliber of actors that were a part of it. The director, John Newland, just to speak about him just briefly, just to remind folks, we were saying earlier too, in regards to him, that he actually got his start. He was with acting, but what he wound up doing was he wound up switching to directing, and of course, very well known for the show Alcoa Presents, which then later went by its syndicated title, which was One Step Beyond. And like I was saying earlier, the very first episode of the show, when Captain Phil was on to host with me, was talking about that series. So if anybody out there hasn't had the chance to see it, it's very similar to Twilight Zone. It's similar but different, I guess you'd say. It is an anthology series, but it really dealt with a lot of the stories, most of the stories with mysticism, the occult, the supernatural, but very, very well done. And he was a host of it. In fact, in the 70s, I think it was around 1977, 78, he did a revival of the show, and it was called The Next Step Beyond. But it only lasted, I believe, like 1 season, and it wasn't terribly successful. But it's something I remember watching, like it was on like 7:30 at night. And I think it was on CBS at the time. But anyway, it's like 45 years ago.
He cut his teeth in television, had a lot of experience by the time he did this. But his first movie, called That Night with an exclamation point, was done in 1957, and it was nominated for 2 BAFTAs, 2 BAFTA awards. So that's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good accomplishment. Yeah. Ironically enough, Ross, when he directed this movie, he was 56 years old.
That's ironic.
But he did a lot of directing of episodic television too.
Did he have anything? Did he have a thing for yams?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think the writer Nigel McKeon must have. I couldn't find out a lot about him except for the fact that he was totally freaked out by his fireplace.
Which was the carryover for this movie.
Yeah. So apparently he hated to clean his fireplace because there was some kind of drop off or something. It was all dark back there, and that's what gave him the idea for the movie or for the script. And the reason I think that when I talk about the character motivations being off and they started filming this before the script was finished is because I think it's really underdeveloped in the sense that her best friend has such a quick turnaround on believing that these evil forces are in the house.
Yeah.
She instantly believes that these evil yams, these malevolent yams, are there to take her down. Don't leave her alone.
I was actually thinking there was going to be more resistance because I didn't remember that
Yeah,
aspect of the movie. And to your
yeah,
point, she really she makes the comment. She goes, I believe you, but I'm not sure anybody else will." And then right
yeah,
away, I'm thinking, okay, is it more like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
She
yeah,
humoring
yeah,
her. Yeah,
it's
right,
like, okay, yeah, yeah, I believe you. It's okay. Everything's going to be all
right.
right.
But then
It's
she's with the husband, and she's, you don't understand.
right.
These evil yams are after her.
But she truly does believe her.
Yeah,
It's not a case immediately and again, all roads lead to Star Trek. William Shatner at the Twilight Zone when he's Nightmare 20,000 feet, when
yeah,
he's saying that he sees the gremlin on the wing of the plane and he's trying to convince his wife, and then what happens is
right.
the pilot comes out, and then he's talking and saying about it, and then the pilot's like, no, no, we're aware of it, we know about it, and it's just like,
Mhm.
we're just don't want to alarm the passengers, and he's like, oh, oh, okay. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, yeah, you believe me. And he's like, get the hell out of here. And, but Chris, yes, the world needs to know. um, but anyway, with that, yeah. So no, he, this film actually though warranted a sequel. And when you mentioned the director for the 2010 film, he really wasn't had, this movie made a huge impression on him. So
Oh,
much
oh, oh, Del Toro.
Del
Yeah,
Toro, yeah, where
he produced the remake. I don't know who directed it, but yeah,
or not directed it, right? He produced it, so he wanted to make sure that it was done because he was really influenced by it or emotionally scarred,
right,
like
right. He and
the
his
rest
brother
of us.
were freaked out by it, just like I was, just like we were.
Yeah,
All right, everybody. Okay, so Yam People versus Zuni Doll.
who would win?
Who would win? Who messed you up more psychologically when we're talking about these 70s horror movies? This is
I know the answer to that for myself.
yeah,
What do you think it is?
Zuni Doll.
Definitely, absolutely. I remember when
Zuni.
that movie was on, I was watching it with my mom. My dad's
Yeah,
really not into the horror films, but my mom was watching it, and we were living in Wallington. I think I told this story when we did the show. And essentially, I remember too, I was sick. I had like a fever. I wasn't feeling good. And then I wound up going to bed early, and I was in my room. I was probably, what year did that come out? 75, I think it was. It was maybe,
mm.
8 years old. And I
Trilogy
remember
of
like,
Terror. Yeah,
yeah, it was dark, and then I
dark.
was like I was hearing the noise, from the TV and from the living room, and I was like
Mm.
freaked out. I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? I was, and I remember asking my mom the next day, what happened in the film. But anyway,
They had totally different styles. You
yeah,
know, the Zuni Doll and the Yam Men. Did we see the remake?
yes, we did.
Did you?
See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after
Yeah.
watching Doctor Sleep, I'm not watching anything that you guys recommend. What? You're frozen, Roy. You're canceled. Maybe I'm frozen.
Whoa, that was weird. Was I frozen?
What was
Wow,
weird? What
that
was
was
weird?
bizarre.
What happened?
I don't know. That was really. You were
Well, you
just like,
stuck a couple of times tonight, at least on my screen, but that was the most definitive.
yeah. I think the Yam people are on the
Yeah.
attack.
Or the Zuni dolls munching on the cables.
uh,
You should
Christian,
take a poll, though. I want to know Zuni doll or Yam people.
yeah, folks, do that out there. Post your comments. All you have to do is say Zuni doll or Yam people. We're curious
Yeah.
who was affected. What affected you more?
We can tally those as we go to the shout outs.
Yeah, we'll do that. There you go. Don, the Yam people do have complex carbohydrates. Let's see. I'm just going to go through these, Ross, real quick. And the Yams are on your computer. Cherry's saying that the doll scared me to death. Matt's saying doll. Oh, Jeff is saying Space Yam. Okay.
Space like Space Jam, I think.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So let us know what your thoughts are. Oh my God. One of these days I'll learn. Anyway, as the folks out there are tallying up what they thought as far as what was the most scary, whether it be Zuni Doll or the Yam, we will go to the music portion of the show. And Ross, can you please tell us about
the guy,
legend, Mr. Billy
the music guy,
the music guy?
Yeah, Billy Goldenberg. Yeah, so he was a composer and songwriter. He lived from 1936 to 2020, so he didn't die that long ago. Died at the age of 84. His mom was a violinist, so she taught him violin and viola. His dad was a percussionist. He was the house percussionist at WOR and also with the NBC Symphony Orchestra. So young Billy decides he wants to be a musician. He'd been playing the piano since the age of 5, but his dad says, no, you can't be a musician because I'm laid off. So he comes down hard against music. So Billy decides, all right, I'll go to Columbia then and I'll study physics and math. So that's what he does. He goes off and studies physics and math. And then when he graduates, he becomes a computer programmer, but he develops an ulcer. So he says, screw this, I'm going to be a musician. So he starts writing songs, and he falls in with Mike Nichols and Elaine May for their Broadway show, An Evening with Nichols and May. And he wrote the songs for that and was the music director. And that really was his watershed moment. And he got into, mainly television, but he did some movies too, but mainly television movies and TV programs. And one of the people he worked with was Steven Spielberg. Mm-hmm. And he did the Night Gallery that Spielberg did with what's her name? Joan
Crawford.
Joan Crawford. Thank you very much. The anti Betty Davis. Yeah, he did that Night Gallery episode. He did Duel, the TV movie. Yes. So I don't know what happened between he and Spielberg, but whether they just drifted apart or if there was some kind of thing where Spielberg decided he wanted another sound. But it's one of those interesting twists of fate. He could have been John Williams, but instead he stayed in the direction he was going, and Spielberg went in the other direction. He did do some movies, like I said. He did a number of films. The two that leapt out at me were Play It Again, Sam, the Woody Allen comedy, and also Up the Sandbox, the Barbara Streisand movie, which was directed by Irving Kershner, by the way.
Oh, okay. Empire
Strikes Back. Yeah. So he wrote a song for Barbara in that movie. He won an Emmy for Queen of the Stardust Ballroom. Queen of the Stardust Ballroom. I remember that. 1975. It had Charles Durning and Maureen Stapleton. The Bergmans wrote the lyrics for that. Alan and Marilyn Bergman, who wrote the lyrics for so many classic songs like The Way We Were and the Windmills of My Mind, and it's like so many. You Don't Bring Me Flowers. Mm-hmm. One of their least successful ventures is when they teamed up with John Williams and did a song for Yes Giorgio with Luciano Pavarotti. I don't know if you remember that movie. Pavarotti and Catherine Harold and Eddie Arnold. Not Eddie Arnold. Yeah, Eddie Arnold's Green Acres, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They did a whole montage there, the balloon sequence where they wrote the lyrics for. But I shouldn't go off on that because Billy Goldenberg didn't have anything to do with that. If Spielberg had seen that, he wouldn't have wanted to work with Williams probably. But he wound up winning 3 more Emmys then for a miniseries about Ben Franklin called The Lives of Benjamin Franklin. So he's a multi-Emmy winner. And he did work in the movies, and he had a successful career. Wrote a lot of TV music.
So then he did Columbo too.
He did Columbo. He did a number of shows. He did the theme for Kojak.
Yes, very cool.
Yeah, and in this movie, it was very interesting. He used a lot of avant-garde techniques that were kind of in the air by the contemporary composers that were doing experimental stuff in the 60s and 70s. He was kind of lifting techniques used by Penderecki and George Crumb. And these guys were also they were literally quoted in The Exorcist. They would take, their concert pieces and put them on the soundtrack to films like The Exorcist. So it sounded like horror music, but he went and kind of, cribbed some of that style for some of to ratchet up the tension. Yeah. And at one point I also heard a harpsichord. You always have to have a harpsichord in a horror movie. A big clunky harpsichord though. But that's all I've got on Billy Goldenberg.
No, I mean,
it's not a household name, but yeah.
No, what a career though, right?
Yeah.
It was definitely a full career. I'm definitely not a John Williams, but still, I mean, he was involved in a lot.
Right. So his dad was wrong. He could make a living in music.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Thanks, Ross. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. So, I'm seeing some different comments coming in here. Let's see. Just going back. I think Jeff Rubel said the Space Yam. Christian
the Valley of the Yams. Z-Yam.
Yeah. Chris is saying this is getting interesting.
There you go. Zany. It's zany. No, I'm not sure what that's.
I'm not sure either. So I think the Yams. I don't know. It looks like the Yams got it though. I would have thought that.
The Yams didn't get it, did it? They were creepy. The whisper really, like, we didn't really talk about that raspy Sally.
Yeah.
Every time she's in the house there's always something creepy going with.
Well, and that's the other thing we didn't tie up. We said that she was sucked up into the chimney. Now, what happens is that's where that last scene ends. But then the final scene of the movie is showing the house just like we saw it at the beginning,
right? And
it's the voices again saying, we need to be freed. We need to be freed. And then you hear Kim Darby's voice saying, "They will come." And they will let us out, and then we have plenty of time. And so what's happened is she has become one of them, just like her grandfather had. And then that's how the movie is.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense because they keep wanting to get out, but they keep winding back in. Every time you pull them out, every time they want to get out, you pull them back in.
Yeah. Exactly. And essentially with the whole spirit, one thing I didn't even capture or get, it was more from reading, is whoever lets them out is the person that's going to be essentially that they're going to target to become one of them. And I didn't catch that piece of it. That was something I read in commentary. So
everybody else just gets tripped down the stairs and breaks their neck or gets stabbed with a screwdriver.
Yeah, because at one point they say to her, we want your spirit. We want your spirit. Yeah. And then that's when she was trying to tell her husband, and he just looked at her like she was crazy. So, but yeah.
And it turned out John Cassavetes was whatever. Make a Rosemary's Baby joke, but it's not worth it.
We'll actually have to cover that film down the road.
Rosemary's Baby's jokes are never worth it.
Yeah. That's 67, I think. That was definitely a 60s movie.
Late 60s. Yeah. Maybe it's earlier than I think, but it's another good movie though.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover that.
Yeah.
But alrighty, I'm gonna go to the shout outs. If you have any last minute comments you want to comment about this film, anything, again, if you want to do the poll that we were polling you on, please do. So no pun intended. A lot of pun in this movie, a lot of yams.
We want to wager? Should we wager on this?
Nah. Never tell me the odds, Ross.
Yeah. No, don't put money on a yam.
So Mike and Mary Beth, our friends from Sci-Fi Distilled, they are on. Oh, and thanks, Christian. 1968. Yeah, I thought it was 67, 68, somewhere around there. Thanks for checking that. Mike and Mary Beth do Sci-Fi Distilled. It is on Wednesday nights. They cover science fiction of the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Just want to give a shout out to Mike. Mike actually came down with COVID. Mike is on the mends and doing better, but hoping he continues to feel better. So definitely want to throw that out there. They were going to be covering this week. They are going to be covering this next week, and it is going to be Wednesday, October 5th. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it is going to be the 1986 film Highlander. And this is the very first film in that series. So definitely check them out.
There could be only one. It's The Quickening.
And the next thing I want to do is give a shout out to my friend Bill Scorado, and Bill is the owner of Countrygate Playhouse. And as folks know, the theaters around the country were affected by COVID. And right now, Bill has got planned for the month of October. It is going to be a film festival of classic horror films. And it's going to be kicked off not this Saturday, but starting next Saturday, October 8th, with Night of the Living Dead. It will be shown at the theater, and that will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The next week, October 15th, it will be Nosferatu, which is a 1922 film celebrating its 100-year anniversary. And again, that will be at 8 p.m. and that will be shown at the theater as well. And then the next film will be on October 22nd, which is going to be Little Shop of Horrors. This is the original film that came out in 1960. This is the comedy horror film, not the musical. And then the following week, October 29th, Saturday at 8 p.m. And then on October 30th at 2 p.m., we're going to say it's going to be Rocky Horror meeting Mystery Science Fiction 3000, so to speak, because the film Plan 9 from Outer Space will be shown, but Countrygate players will be a part of this movie and will be up on stage as a part of the film as it's being shown. So it should be a lot of fun. So definitely check it out. If you are in the Belvedere, New Jersey area and you want to come see it, you can see it on those days. And again, it is on the 29th and the 30th. So stay tuned for information. And you can visit the website, Bill's website, which is www.billscorado.com for ticket information, or you can go to www.countrygate.org. And next, I want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil is on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. His schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And he's also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. And actually, Captain Phil is broadcasting right now. And there's actually going to be a panel going to be on discussing Star Trek Strange New Worlds. In fact, Mary Beth, who just jumped on before, is going to be a part of that, as well as Mike. And then also myself, I will be a part of that panel discussion as well. Colleen, who's out west, who's a part of the Space 1999 fan group, she's also going to be a part of that. And there's a couple other folks as well, too. So you can actually tune into that. That's internet radio. And again, it's WSBM, the 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. And also want to give a shout out to friends Todd Morton and Gordon Moriguchi. They host Todd's Corner, which is on Sundays. Now, Todd has been on hiatus for a while. He is planning on coming back the middle of October. And he usually broadcasts with Gordon on Sundays, and that's usually at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So stay tuned for that. And Ross, if you can let everybody else know what you've got going on and what's planned.
All right, these are my two radio shows on WWFM, the Classical Network. Celebrated my 27th anniversary this week at the station.
Yes, Ross, and I didn't get a chance to say that to you. I mean, I said that to you online, but congratulations on your anniversary, and that is quite an achievement. So happy anniversary in regards to that. Very nice.
It shows how tenacious I am. I won't let go. I'll hold on like grim death.
Hold on to that rope, Ross.
Hold on to that rope. So these are the two shows that I've got on there right now. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. And that airs Saturday night at 6. And this week, because we're in the middle of the Jewish High Holy Days, I'm having all music from movies not necessarily related to the holidays, but having to do with the Jewish experience. So I have music from Exodus, which has nothing to do with Moses. It's the Leon Uris novel. Otto Preminger directed the movie with Paul Newman and Eva Marie Saint and Ralph Richardson and all-star cast. But anyway, Ernest Gold's music won an Oscar. So I'll be playing music from Exodus. I'll also be playing music from Avalon, which is about several generations of a Jewish family and kind of the friction between the immigrants that arrived here and made their, laid down the foundation for a better life, and the generations that came after, and how there's like kind of that conflict, kind of that friction between the generations. So Avalon is the movie. It's a Barry Levinson film. The music is by Randy Newman. I've got music from Holocaust, which was a miniseries in 1978. Morton Gould wrote the music. It was a CBS miniseries. And then music from Heritage, Civilization and the Jews, which was a PBS miniseries. And that won a ton of Emmys. And John Duffy wrote the music for that. So I'll have all 4 of those film scores, excerpts from that tomorrow night on Picture Perfect at 6 o'clock at wwfm.org. Sunday night on The Lost Chord, that's all music anticipating Yom Kippur, because again, we're in the middle of the high holy days, and I've got some kind of meditative music on that program, including a string quartet by Jacob Weinberg. The string quartet falls into 3 movements. So the first movement's Rosh Hashanah, the second Yom Kippur, and the third is Sukkot, which is the autumn harvest festival. And then I have a larger symphonic work by Emil Nicholas von Reznicek, who wasn't Jewish, but he took the theme, Kol Nidre, which is intoned at the beginning of the Yom Kippur service, and he did a series of symphonic variations on that. A great set of variations is about 27, 28 minutes long. So those things are the featured works on The Lost Chord Sunday night at 10, and the program is called Tones of Atonement. And you can listen to it at wwfm.org, or if you can't catch it at the times indicated, they'll be posted later in the week as webcasts. And I'll write about them. Tomorrow morning, I'll write about Picture Perfect. Sunday morning, I'll write about The Lost Chord. You can read about them at my Facebook page, Classic Ross Amico. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And then lastly, folks, I just want to give a reminder to everybody, as I had stated, we were talking about it earlier when we started the show. We are now broadcasting not only on Facebook, but on YouTube as well as Twitter. So the only thing I would ask is just make sure, if you haven't already, please like the Facebook page. And then also for YouTube, if you can please subscribe. It is free. There is no charge at all for that. We're just trying to, bring up subscriptions on the page as well as on Twitter. And if you can just share, if you enjoy the show, just share it and just put it out there just to make other folks aware of it that might like this type of, talk discussions regarding science fiction, movies, horror of the era. So we're just trying to get the word out, and it's very much appreciated. And if you would like, take opportunity to do a review and then post your comments on Facebook or YouTube as well as Twitter as well too. It's very, very much appreciated, and we appreciate all of your support as we are in the 3rd season of the show, and we've been going. Actually, we're coming up on 2.5 years that we've been broadcasting the show in the month of October. So again, thank you. It is very much appreciated, and we're just happy that you join us each week, whether it be live through the broadcast or watching it through the recordings. So, and then lastly, just want to let everybody know we are now officially going into Halloween month, and we will be back next week, Friday, October 7th. And we've actually gotten a lot of requests about this film, and we are going to go a little bit into the 1980s, discussing with episode 163 the 1985 film that actually featured Patrick Stewart.
Enough said.
In Life Force. This has been an ongoing joke for like over 2 years now.
Yeah.
So
of course, this is the one with the naked French vampire, lady vampire from outer space. So I look forward to rewatching this one.
Yes, Matilda May.
You thought the yams were kinky. Matilda, there we go. The Matilda May fan club will be here next week. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll look into that.
Anyway, enough of that. You're just gonna wipe it clean. Act like it's like Men in Black. You see the bright flash and the show starts again. Yeah.
It's called a rewind.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, this was good, Ross. I actually I did enjoy this movie. I mean, this movie definitely could have had a little bit more substance to it, but it's a cult favorite. It's 49 years old. It's definitely held up. It was definitely a fun discussion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the substance. I just have it could have been executed a little better at times, but
yeah,
I think the yams were effective. which I say the day after every Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Thank you for the yams. Anyway, folks. Lou's doing a YouTube test. Awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Thanks, Lou.
But thank you, folks. We really appreciate your support. We hope you enjoyed the show. And wishing everybody a great week ahead. Ross, any last words?
No, I'm going to let you go because you got to go on Captain Phil.
Yeah. So if you'd like, folks, we're going to be discussing Strange New Worlds, which is the latest Star Trek incarnation. So definitely something.
You're heading over there in what, 10 minutes?
More like 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
So live long and prosper, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Have a good weekend.